Good morning. For those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Mike Moe. I'm founder of GSV. On behalf of my colleagues at GSV, I want to welcome you to our second annual Pioneer Summit. We're delighted that you're here. We think we have a very exciting, engaging couple days in front of us. Fantastic companies, great speakers, and a lot of great people here to connect to. So thank you for spending your time here. Before I make some formal remarks, just want to pay a tribute to our friend Bill Campbell, who passed this spring. You know, Bill, as most people in this room know, Bill was called the coach of Silicon Valley. He was called that because he was the key advisor to some of the great companies of Silicon Valley. Not only Silicon Valley, really the world. I mean, Google, Apple, Intuit, Amazon, and on and on. Bill was an amazing guy, and he was a great friend of mine. He was a great friend of GSV, and GSVlabs was on GSV Capital's board, and we miss him every single day. But Bill loved what was going on at GSVlabs because Bill loved entrepreneurs. He loved to see ideas be brought to life, and he wanted to be a big supporter and advocate of that, and in fact was. You know, last year at the Pioneer Summit, Bill was part of the inaugural class of the Global Silicon Valley Hall of Fame, which we created to really celebrate and honor the people that changed the world for good in Silicon Valley. And that was an amazing night. Tomorrow night we'll have our second induction. I encourage you all to come. It's going to be incredible, and I think it's important to, again, honor and recognize these people. The common denominator for all of them, besides this incredible passion for innovation and entrepreneurship in the future, was the fact that their dreams, I mean, they made a habit of people that told them that their dreams were impossible, and they made them happen anyway. And that, I think, is a common denominator as we look at the next few days and what we're focused on and where the future is in innovation. It's that mindset of basically not allowing people to say something can't be done, something's impossible, and doing it. So when you look at when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile in 1954, the Scientific Journal said it was impossible to run a mile under 4 minutes. So when he, in fact, broke the 4-minute mile, he ran it below 4 minutes and collapsed at the finish line, people naturally thought he had died because that was supposed to happen. What's interesting is 6 weeks after he broke the 4-minute mile, somebody else broke it, and then it was broken routinely. Of course, now older people break the 4-minute mile, high schoolers break the 4-minute mile. It was a mindset. And once that changed, everything changed. The late, great Muhammad Ali said, impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. And that is a core mindset philosophy that entrepreneurs have that kind of go on to accomplish amazing things. And so when you look at these game changers, the ones that defy gravity and really do things that nobody's ever done before, that's something that is just part of it. It's part of the resume. So this amazing entrepreneur was dyslexic, was turned down by 53 banks for a business loan, went on to found 8 different billion-dollar-plus businesses. And that's, of course, Sir Richard Branson. This trailblazer grew up in the segregated South, graduated from high school at age 15, went on to be provost at Stanford at age 39, became the national security advisor and secretary of state, Condoleezza Rice, and now she is on the college football playoff selection committee, who's the only female. These guys started a business in 2007 with 3 air mattresses, basically because they needed to find a way to eat. Not, ironically, how they raised the capital for their beginning business was they sold custom cereal boxes for the 2008 campaign. They had Captain McCain and Obama O's. That, of course, was Airbnb, led by Brian Chesky. Last year, 80 million nights booked on Airbnb, $26 billion market valuation. This extraordinary entrepreneur grew up in the projects in Brooklyn. The first person in his family to go to college, he was able to go to Northern Michigan on a football scholarship. Went around Europe, traveling different coffee bars, found the magic and said, gosh, I want to make this a global business. In fact, That's Howard Schultz. Starbucks today, 24,000 stores, 70 countries, $80 billion market value. This creative genius was unemployed, on welfare, and came up with her idea for a book while she was stuck on a delayed train. J.K. Rowling sold 400 million Harry Potter books, $25 billion franchise value. This technology genius failed Chinese university entrance exam 3 times. His job application was rejected by 30 companies, including Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's Jack Ma, $255 billion market value today. This technology legend, basically his idea initially had to have each user be approved manually. So as you can imagine, investors didn't love that idea for scale purposes, and 25 VCs rejected it. This is Reid Hoffman on LinkedIn, and obviously they fixed that glitch. They got 400 million users today, sold to Microsoft for $26 billion. So not to be outdone, this team was rejected by 30 VCs, and that was the least of their problems. They were banned from the United States because they were violating archaic FCC and copyright laws. This was Skype, 3 billion call minutes per day, sold to Microsoft for $8.5 billion. And by the way, if you saw a little link, you might think if you're an entrepreneur in the room, it might be a good thing to know the guys at Microsoft. Anyway, and there's a few of them in this room, so just in case you didn't catch that. So this whole, what is actually pretty normal, in fact more normal than not, is to accomplish great things, you have to overcome big impediments. You have to, sorry. What did Donald Trump say? Get the phone. No, sorry. But it's basically doing what people said was impossible or unfathomable. And so this is as old as time. So when Christopher Columbus had this idea of a faster route to Asia, he took this idea to King John of Portugal in 1485. King John thought this was kind of interesting if this could be done. He took it to his investment committee, rejected. Assumptions were completely crazy. That's what they came back with. Dejected, Christopher Columbus then went on the Santiago Road. By the way, that's where Sand Hill Road came from, Santiago Road. That's not true. I just made that up. But you get the idea. He went to Queen Isabella from Spain, 1486. She was intrigued, brought it to her advisors. They said, too much time, too much money, too much risk. Bye. So, like any great entrepreneur, he went back to King John of Portugal. Now, as luck would have it, his first mover advantage changed because Bartholomew Diaz was able to go around the Horn of Africa first, and so King John said, well, that's over, and now, what does Columbus do? He has to find less sophisticated money. So he went to the family offices in Genoa in 1488, and Venice that same year, and the dumb money wanted to know why the smart money had turned him down, and so they turned him down as well. So what's he do? He hires an advisor, his brother Bartholomew, and Bartholomew has a Ryan Lochte moment, says that he basically was robbed by pirates on his way to see King Henry. King Henry is very unsympathetic, sends him home, as is King Charles from France. But King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella see something in this Columbus that they like. They like his tenacity, they like his kind of stick-to-itiveness. They bring him on as an entrepreneur in residence for 2 years. And finally, they couldn't figure out what to do with him, so they sent him out of town on a mule. And on the way out of town, they grab him and they say, you know what, let's go for this. And so he got a 10% promote for basically all the revenues that was able to get from these new lands and his discovery. And so he set sail from Spain to Asia, and one of the great pivots of all time, found America. So great pivots are kind of common, right? I mean, that's just how busy you adjust. And so EMC, which was sold to Dell for $60 billion, started as an office furniture company. Obviously Facebook started as Face Match, Twitter started as a podcast audio, YouTube was Hot or Not, and then Glitch became the business productivity phenom, $4 billion valued Slack. So that's just kind of normal. That's kind of how things work. So over the next 2 days, we're going to talk about some of these gravitational shifts, these gravitational forces that are changing the landscape, and providing the opportunity for great innovation to happen. So the first gravitational shift I want to talk about is digital natives ruling the world. So this month, the class of 2020 came on campus, and this class of 2020 is very unique. So if you go back 18 years when they were born, that's when Google was born, 1998. So this whole class of 2020 grew up in a world where information was free, ubiquitous, at your fingertips, right? Unlike the previously, where information was expensive and water was free. So think how far things have changed. But in addition to that, you had this phenomena of Steve Jobs coming back for a second tour at Apple with the goal of putting a computer on everybody's desk initially, and ultimately a supercomputer in everybody's pocket. So basically, the class of 2020 doesn't think about a smartphone, it's a phone. And on the phone, they do everything. They get their transportation, they get their food, they get every bit of good under the sun. Tomorrow, you're going to hear from Ron Johnson, who is playing into this megatrend, who's the CEO of Enjoy. So Enjoy allows you to order technology on your phone, at your desktop, brought to your house, to your work, to your coffee shop. They'll set it up for you, high-touch basis. It's on demand. And that's what this generation is looking for. So we're very excited about the future for Enjoy, and I think you'll love hearing from Ron tomorrow. You think about entertainment. So Netflix allows you to see anything you want to watch on your phone or on your iPad. So it's no wonder that this generation, the people in the class of 2020, they think going to a movie theater at a set time to buy overpriced popcorn and sodas is ridiculous. They can binge watch at home or in their apartment, any series they want to watch all the time. And again, not coincidence. This generation, the 2020 class, thinks it's absurd that they have to go to their Econ 101 class on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Why can't they get the course they want, where they want it, when they want it, online? And 50% think online classes are better anyway. So that is a major shift that's going on and is going to have major implications. This class, millennials and the class of 2020, they love technology. They want technology with everything. They don't remember the dot-com bubble burst. They're 3 years old. So that just isn't part of their memory. But what is etched in their memory forever is their friends, family who lost their house in a foreclosure during the financial crisis of 2007, 2008. And not a coincidence, millennials don't believe in owning anything. And not homes. And homes used to be what you wanted to have. That was aspirational. It's a 25% decrease in home ownership by millennials in the last 9 years. Also etched in their memory forever is their parents losing their job that they had for their entire career and also losing their pension along with it. And so, again, as a part of that result, the millennials are expected to have 15 different careers during the course of their lifetime. And some of those careers are going to be part of the gig economy, like Lyft, like driving Lyft. And what's interesting about Lyft is while they don't want to own a car, they absolutely don't mind driving a car to make some extra money. What's interesting, my generation, when you turned 16, what was the first thing you did? Got your driver's license. This generation, what you look at, last year, more cars were sold to people over the age of 25, over the age of 75 than under the age of 25. We're in a different world. Gravitational shift number 2, geographic. So this is both virtual and physical. Facebook has 1.7 billion citizens. You think about it, it's a lot like a country. They have their own language, they have their own commerce, they have their own currency, they have their own rules. If it were a country, it'd be the largest country in the world. It doesn't have land, but that's soon coming through virtual reality. And obviously Facebook owns Oculus. On July 7th, was a starting gun went off that virtual reality is now commercial. Pokemon Go came to the world on July 7th. My friend Joe Bessaker reminded me of that last night. But 500 million downloads have happened. 500 million in revenue, the fastest growth in the history of anything. After me, this morning, we have Jason Rosenthal speaking from Lytro, which has amazing technology. And what he's doing is basically selling picks and shovels to the virtual reality miners. So virtual reality is going from $1 billion market today up 80x by 2025 to $80 billion. Really exciting opportunities in that field. Physically, looking in the rearview mirror, the economic engine for the last 100 years It was the United States, Japan, Europe, and Canada. So with just 9% of the population of the world in 2000, these countries contributed over 50% of global GDP. That's the good news. Bad news? Over the last 15 years, GDP growth for those countries is actually flat, essentially even negative. The populations are getting old, so 26% of those countries' people are over the age of 60, and just 11% are under the age of 15. So in Japan last year, there were more diapers sold to older people than there were to babies. The fertility rate in these countries is 1.6. So to keep a constant population, you need 2. So 1.6, you're essentially, the population's literally dying. And the GDP, as a percentage of global GDP, has fallen to 38%. So as we look ahead, where's the growth and where's the opportunity? So we call it the V-chips: Vietnam, China, India, Indonesia, and the Philippines. These countries have 43% of the global population. Now, just 28% of global GDP today, but GDP is growing 6.6% versus basically 0 in the developed countries. You look at the demographics, the mere opposite of what you see in the developed countries. So just 11% of the population is over the age of 60, and 25% nearly of the population is under the age of 15. The fertility rate is 2.3, so you have organic growth. So you look at the old center of gravity, it was those countries. The new center of gravity is Asia and the Pacific. So Columbus had it right, he was just early. Well, on deck, you got Africa. We got 5 of the 10 fastest growing countries in the world last year were from Africa. What's interesting is conventional wisdom is that China, sort of that growth story is yesterday's news. That does not, missed that, or that was sort of it and something else. China's just beginning. If you look at what's going on, it's truly remarkable. And part of that's the urbanization that's constant around the world, but look what's going on in China. So in the United States, there are 10 cities with 1 million people or more. When you look at China, there's 160 cities with 1 million people or more. And this is young people with ideas and trying to change the world, young people that are embracing technology. Here's Shanghai in 1990. Here's Shanghai today, one of the most modern cities in the world. So the official population for Shanghai is 24 million people, but demographers will say, actually, when you look at cell phone usage and other data, the real population of Shanghai is more like 40 million people. That's larger than the entire country of Canada. You look at a city named Xi'an, has 13 million people. It's China's 10th largest city. Now here's the fact about Xi'an. With the exception of a few people in this room, nobody in this room has ever heard of Xi'an. It's bigger than the country of Sweden. So what the impact of this middle class change and growth is profound. So in 2000, there's 1.4 billion people that were middle class. It's grown 80% to 2.5 billion, and it's expected over the next 15 years to grow to be 5 billion. Where's that growth going to happen? So today, already, the Asia Pacific is nearly 25% of middle class consumption. Over the next 14 years, it's going to be nearly 60%. And what do middle class people want? They want comforts. So the V-chip countries I talked about, by the way, are really hot. So if you just look at air conditioners, if they just had the same air conditioning consumption that the United States had, they'd consume 50 times more energy than the United States consumes today. Obviously, big pressures on things like sustainability, also big, huge opportunities. Tomorrow afternoon, before our Hall of Fame dinner, we have Nikesh Arora, who was the former president of SoftBank speaking. Nikesh invested $4 billion in Asia last year alone. So you look at history, most of history, it was who controlled the seas, controlled the future. And that was obviously the era of Columbus. For 500 years, that was the case. The last 100 years is who controlled the air. You look at the future, we believe it's really who controls space. For defense, for communication, for agriculture, logistics, leisure. All this is going to be done in space. SpaceX, obviously, an example of this with Elon Musk. Already it's a $330 billion market, but we think it's about to take off. Sorry for the pun. Third gravitational shift, automation. And this is a huge, huge shift in terms of what's going on in society. The middle class historically was blue-collar workers. I mean, that was the heart and soul of the middle class. That middle class, those blue-collar workers are under siege from technology and automation. Amazon alone has 30,000 robots that it, quote-unquote, employs in its warehouses. There's 350 million manufacturing jobs at risk. And it's not just blue-collar workers, it's white-collar workers as well. McKinsey estimates that 12 million white-collar jobs are going away by 2025. Jobs like, it's estimated that $7 trillion is going to be managed by robots. Already, the Associated Press does analysis on 3,000 companies quarterly, which is done by robots. So effectively, if you think about the future, money's going to be managed by robots, and they're going to be making decisions based on the information that other robots are providing. So add this all up, about 50% of all the jobs today are at risk of being eliminated in the next 20 years. So Mark Zuckerberg says the answer for all this is everybody should become a computer programmer because he has an insatiable demand for that. In fact, the world does. 1.2 million open computer science jobs in the United States by 2020. No less an expert than the Harvard Business Review has said that data science is the sexiest job of the 21st century. It's sexy because that's where the jobs are, and they're high-paying jobs. The problem with that logic is this. Human capability basically is on a linear growth curve. Technology's capabilities on an exponential curve. So we're here. And so effectively this says is that pretty soon the technology is going to replace the technologist. So it's not just blue-collar jobs or white-collar jobs, it's also no-collar jobs. So the killer jobs today are likely to be killed tomorrow. And that creates both problems and opportunities. So as sure as the sun comes up in the east, automation is going to continue to eat industries and jobs. And that's just a fact. Tomorrow afternoon, we got Andrew Ng, who's the chief scientist at Baidu. He's also the chairman of Coursera. Andrew is viewed as the top machine learning person in the world, expert in artificial intelligence. Being the chairman of Coursera, he also has a unique window to how we're going to give people the skills and the knowledge they need to be successful and participate in the future. So the fourth gravitational shift is knowledge economy, because in a global marketplace, a knowledge economy, education and what you know makes the difference not only an individual does, but how a company does, and for that matter, how well a country does. What's exciting to us is for the first time ever, you're seeing what we call weapons of mass instruction. And so what a weapon of mass instruction means is you're able to see these education technology companies scale very, very quickly because they're able to leverage the digital tracks that have been laid over the last 20 years with 3.1 billion people on the internet and 2.6 billion smartphones. So some examples of these weapons of mass instruction include Coursera and Clever and Curious and Coursera. Those are just 4 names, but those 4 companies alone have over 50 million students on their platform, and none of them have been around more than 5 years. So the last gravitational shift I want to talk about, which is really kind of the essence of what we're about at GSV, is the global Silicon Valley. So if you look at the old global innovation map, it kind of worked like this. In London, kind of the attitude was, risk isn't my cup of tea. You know, if the Queen doesn't like it, why should I? And so then you go to New York City. And in New York City, basically how it would be, a new idea would be greeted. If it's such a good idea, why hasn't it been done already? So you move west to Minneapolis. That's where I grew up, a little bit more open-minded. I said, you know, an entrepreneur comes with a new business. They say, that looks promising. Let's test it. Now you move to San Francisco, where they say, can I write you a check? Move to Shanghai. Great idea. Now it's my idea. But the new global innovation map, which is so wildly exciting to us, is these innovation that has made the distance between San Francisco and San Jose such a great place, such an amazing place, such a magical place, has gone global and it's gone viral. And we think that has profound effects for opportunities and innovation. So we like to say this opportunity exists from Austin to Boston, from Chicago to Sao Paulo, from Mumbai to Shanghai to Dubai. That's the global Silicon Valley. And that's what we're all able to participate in. So over the next couple of days, what I'd like you to do is imagine a connected global Silicon Valley. Imagine if there were no boundaries. Imagine how you can change the world for good. Dare to defy gravity. Dare to be great. Thank you.